what we are going to do is that we are going to, similar to the previous work that we did, we are going to draw two curves on Grasshopper, on Rhino, bring them into the Grasshopper, and then break it down, divided by 10, divided by 20 points, and then we are going to create like a reference line for ourselves, and then from that reference line, find a point on the curve, and then eventually create an arc. And then finally, when we have the arc, we are going to create some form of like a ceiling or a pattern of the ceiling that is going to be a surface that we are going to create as the outcome of this task. So let's go back to the Grasshopper and use our curve. And we need two of them, so I'm going to copy and paste two, right? And here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to set up my first curvature. So I don't have a curve here, so I have to go into Grasshopper first and draw two curves. Just going to draw one curve. And then another one. Now that I have two curves, I'm going to go back to Grasshopper, right-click on the curve component, set first one, like here. It's going to be my first, and then use the second one, set the curve number 2. Okay. Now I have two curves ready. So the first task I'm going to do is going to be a division. So I'm going to use the divide component, divide the curve, and I need 2 because I have two curves that I want to divide. And I'm going to go over, connect first curvature to the inputs of the divide, and connect the second one. Now, what I need is basically a number of like a division. In this case, we are using 20. So we're going to use the 20 number slider and then connecting it to the input because I have to have the same number of division. Now, what I get from the outcome is going to be a series of points. What I have to do is that I'm basically connecting them, meaning that I'm going to use the line, create the line component, and the first input will be the series of points I get from the first division, and then I'm going to get the second series of division of points to the second one. Now, if I go back to Rhino, you see that I have a series of line that is here. Now, we have the lines ready. It's a matter of like finding the center point of the line, right? So the outcome of this will be the lines that we have here. Now, what I'm going to use is that I'm going to use points on curve. So point on curve is going to be the component that I'm going to use. And let's bring this kind of a slide bar for me. So by default, it is in a midpoint. So I'm going to connect it here, and you see that is by default is a midpoint. But if I want it to be on different place, that I can be on the starting point, in a quarter, at 1/3, I can adjust it by clicking on different things. So that's basically creating a series of points right there for me in order to, that's going to be my like a main spine of this surface. Now, I have the center point. Now it's a matter of like rising this up, right? We're going to use the move tool in order to bring them up. So we're going to use move. Now we have the inputs. It's going to be the points. But we need to create basically like a vector data in order to basically move this up. Now, the last time we used series to generate number. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a pattern, right? I'm going to use merge. So I'm going to use merge here. So I'm going to type merge. And what was the task for merge is combining different data sets that comes. Now I'm going to bring data sets like numbers into it. So I'm going to put 3. Let's say that's the first one. It's going to be 3. The second one I'm going to use 4, right? And I want to add the last one, which is going to be 8. All right, so I create a series of numbers. Now the input was the numbers, the outcome will be just 3, 4, 8. Now this is one, but I want this to be basically repeat, right, over all the inputs that I have. Now the task for this is going to be the repeat. So we're gonna go repeat data, right? And the input of it is going to be the data series, the pattern that I create. It's going to be my input. Now, the output, it has to be matched with the output of the number of points that I have because I want it to be the same pattern. Now, I have the number of points. What I need is the length of the list. So length list, or list length, and then using the input from the points, and I get the number, which is, right now is 21. I'm gonna connect that to here into the input of the length of the repeats. And as you can see, if I bring the panel, see that the panel, it says 348, again 348. So it's repeating like those numbers that I create. And I can adjust it based on what I want to do with it. Now, what I will do is that connecting this is going to be my value for a z vector data. So I'm going to bring the z unit and then connecting the output of this to the input of the z and then connecting it to the move. Now, if I go back here, you see that I create a series of like a repeating movement for the center points on this main spine of this. Now that I have that, it's just a matter of creating an arc, right? So we're going to go and create an arc based on 3 points. You're all familiar with that. What is this starting point? It's going to be one of the outcome from the curve. The end point will be the other outcome from the end. And the middle one will be the points that we have, right? It's just middle of the arc. Now, if you go back to this view, you see that I create this arc that it just moves and they have a different, like a height in different position. Now that I have that, the last part is very straightforward, right? It's just a matter of like creating the surface out of these lines or out of this arc. So we are going to use Loft and connecting the outcome of the arc to this. And what you see is that like a patterns that create over this whole surface area. Now, in order to kind of give it like a form so I can see it better than the red color, which is very difficult to see, we are going to use purview. We talked about the purview before. It's a custom purview. So the input for the purview is the geometry itself. And then for the material, we can use color switch. And then if I connect that, the color switch is very it's like any color switch, any program. If you double click on it, it brings you this like a setup of like a different type of color that you can choose from, and you can adjust it depending on what you want, and then accept that at the end. And as you can see, then at the end, what I have is going to be a surface of that with these patterns that I created.